Here we go. There we are. So anyways, I just want to welcome Amanda Fisher from MACHE. That's nice to say that. Amanda is new with
Yeah.
MACHE as our director of communications and marketing. And I was just saying earlier, she's the guru of PSEO. We love that because anybody that can give us that kind of information is like valuable to us. So we're thankful to have Amanda here tonight to share for those of you who are joining us. If you did try to log on, I need to apologize. There was major computer glitches all day with this link, and we posted multiple links because we were trying to get it to work. So I apologize. We will make that work better on our next one, and we're going to have a whole new system anyway. So you'll love it, and we'll love it, and it'll be great. This is just the last one we're doing for this school year, but um, for those of you who are joining us, if you have questions as Amanda is talking, go ahead and use the chat to write your question out. And then when Amanda takes a breath, I will interrupt her and ask your questions for you. So,
Yeah.
all right. So I'm going to go dark and quiet and let Amanda get started. So thank you, Amanda.
Thank you, Dale. Thanks for organizing this and getting this started. Again, apologize everybody for the technical issues, but like Dale said, we're recording it and we will post it tomorrow. It's probably better to watch it recorded. You can speed me up a little bit too and get through it faster. But I'm really excited to be here. I'm super excited to be volunteering with MACHE. I'm really learning a ton, and I'm just excited to be a part of a wonderful group and a wonderful group of leadership team. So I'm going to just begin really quickly, just to tell you a little bit about who I am and my family. So again, my name is Amanda Fisher. I'm a longtime homeschool mom. I'm married to Brian, and we live in Waconia with our three teenage daughters. We have Elena, who's 18, Emma, who's 16, and Nora, who's 13. And our oldest daughter, Elena, who's 18, she's actually our first homeschool graduate, which we're super excited about. And I feel pretty accomplished graduating my first one. So she actually took advantage of both CLEP and PSEO. She did full-time PSEO and was able to graduate high school with her associate arts degree from Normandale Community College, which is super awesome. It took a little bit of planning, which I'll explain as we go along in these slides. But she will be going on to UW River Falls this fall, majoring in dairy science, and she will only need to be at UW River Falls for 2 years to finish a 4-year degree because of PSEO and that amazing opportunity. And then Emma, who is just finishing her 10th grade year, is our first to try out 10th grade PSEO, which was, it's fairly new. I think maybe it's 5 or 6 years old, and I'll talk about that a little bit more later. She has taken a few classes, 10th grade PSEO, along with some CLEP, and will end up having 14 college credits by the time she starts her junior year this fall, and then she'll do full-time PSEO. So it's been great for our older two. And then Nora's just going into 8th grade. And so I'm still working out a plan for her. And I'm hoping to incorporate CLEP and PSEO with her too, to some extent. Every kid is different and you can use it differently with each one. So I started homeschooling in 2014. I love homeschooling. It's been a huge blessing for us. I love MACHE for working so hard to keeping our homeschool freedom so that we do have the freedom and flexibility to homeschool. I've had experience in leadership roles within different homeschool communities and different groups. I started a structured homeschool group in our hometown called Rooted, and it is, I think, tripled in size in a few years, and it's just thriving, which is super fun to see. I have personal experience with using CLEP, DSST, and PSEO in our homeschool. And then I also recently had the opportunity to work as a PSEO advisor at Crown College. So that was awesome as well. So that's a little bit about me. I'm going to just go right on to the next slide and take care of a couple different things here. You'll see that I have a QR code there. If you've got your phone and want to scan that, that will download, that will take you to a handout that is a detailed guide about PSEO, and you can follow along with that. Again, it's got a lot more information on it. The link to that handout is also in the chat, so you can click on that and follow along, and then just use that as you wish as you're learning about PSEO. I'm going to try to just after each slide, I just want to take questions if there are any questions, so I will slow down a little bit to do that. Okay, let's just get started. I'm going to explain what PSEO is. So I'm just going to read it because I think that's going to be the easiest. So PSEO is Minnesota's free dual enrollment program funded by the state. It allows qualified high school students to take college classes that simultaneously earn them both high school and college credit. So we use the term PSEO, which stands for post-secondary education options, but dual enrollment is a big term as well. And that's kind of the overall term. And there are lots of dual enrollment programs. There's programs online, and other states have different dual enrollment options. But we are super lucky because the state of Minnesota allows has a dual enrollment program that we call PSEO that is free. So in other programs, you pay tuition to do dual enrollment programs, which then earns you the college credits because your student is taking college classes while in high school. So you're fulfilling the high school requirements for your homeschool. And then you are also earning the college credits because you are taking an actual class, and then you can use those credits to apply to a degree. So PSEO is not an exam that you take, that you get a score, and then you send that to a college. Your student is actually in a college class, whether it's online or in person, and then they're earning those credits for towards a degree. So that's the basics of what PSEO is. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the qualifications and the benefits. So qualifications, a PSEO student must be a Minnesota resident. A student has to have a Minnesota address and reside in Minnesota, pretty simple. Must be in 10th, 11th, or 12th grade. Most people who are familiar with PSEO are familiar with 11th and 12th grade PSEO. We do have a 10th grade option. So I will explain that a few slides later. I'll go into more details about 10th grade PSEO. The student must apply to an institution following their PSEO admissions process and be accepted. And each institution will list out specific requirements, such as a GPA requirement or any tests that are required on their PSEO pages. So an institution will have, like a college or a university will have an online application that you need to fill out and that the student needs to fill out, and then a state form, and then they'll also request a transcript. Benefits, well, the first one, PSEO is a gift of free college. It's an amazing gift of free college. So it's going to save a ton of money and time. Great way for high school students to do that. So I'm going to use a quick example. I'll probably use my girls as examples quite a bit through this presentation, but my daughter will be going to UW River Falls. Tuition, now just tuition, not room and board, is $9,000 per year. Okay, times 4, $36,000. She completed 2 years of PSEO, and we planned it specifically because she knew what she wanted to study. We planned it so that all of her PSEO classes would actually transfer and fulfill degree requirements. So she saved $18,000. I did a quick search. Public schools in state, public universities in state, cost about $46,000 for 4 years. Public out of state, $123,000, and private $173,000. So PSEO is really an amazing, amazing way to save a lot of money, and then of course also time. Another reason, just for students who want to be challenged academically, I mean, these are college classes. So if you have a student that's just ready for something more and wants a college experience and wants to be in those types of classes, it's a great opportunity to do it for free. Participating in PSEO is an excellent opportunity for diligent students who want to get a jump start on earning college credit. So I say diligent because a lot of people think, oh, well, you have to be like a super smart kid. Well, of course, all of our kids are smart and unique in how they learn. And so I usually like to say diligent student because that's really what it's going to take is a student that is willing to do the work and put in the time, the extra time, and study. And just keep in mind that these classes, because they are college classes, they are on the student's permanent record for their grades. All right. Any questions so far? Dale, do you have any questions in the chat? I can't see the chat right now.
Yes, we have. Are there requirements of how long the student needs to have lived in the state before applying for PSEO? And how do I know which colleges have PSEO? Are there private schools who do PSEO or only state colleges? And how can she go to River Falls when it's in Wisconsin?
Yeah, okay, that's a great question. So let me clarify something. So my daughter has graduated high school and has done PSEO in Minnesota. So she's going to get her undergrad. She'll technically be a freshman this fall, but she'll be credit wise a junior. So she's taking those credits from the colleges that she got them here in Minnesota and transferring them to UW River Falls. So she did not take PSEO in Wisconsin. They don't offer PSEO. They might offer some form of dual enrollment, but I'm not sure what it is. I know that you can do AP exams there, and maybe they have something, but it's not the same. So there are some bordering states like I know Wisconsin, maybe North Dakota. I'm not sure um, that will transfer the credits like pretty easily. Like anybody who's done PSEO in Minnesota and maybe has their AA degree, they treat that as fulfilling all of their gen eds. That's not necessarily the case with every other state, though. So I hope that clarifies that. And then the other question, Dale, can you repeat the other question about?
Yeah, the first question was how are there requirements for how long a student needs to have lived in Minnesota before applying?
Nope, at least not now. That's a great question too. You just have to have a Minnesota address and live at that address.
And then how do you know which colleges have PSEO?
Yep, that's another great question. So you can go on the Minnesota Department of Education website and you will see a list of colleges, but you can also just go to a college's website and search for it and look to see if they have a PSEO page. On the handout that you can download through that QR code or the link in the chat, I do have links throughout that handout that you can click on. So I believe there is one that is for the Minnesota Department of Education, where it will say, what colleges offer it. And the Minnesota Department of Education site has a ton of information about PSEO. So that's where I would send you for more detailed questions like that. But and yes, some private colleges do offer PSEO in our area. So we have Crown College. They offer PSEO. They offer online and on campus. And then University of Northwestern offers it. Bethel does. Some of the other private colleges, I'm sure, offer PSEO. But again, you could look on the MD website, or you could just go to that college's website and search to see if they offer it, or call an advisor and find out.
One more question. Are they taking actual college courses with other college students or only PSEO students?
So it kind of depends on the school. So in general, the student is taking, well, first of all, the student is for sure taking college classes. So when you enroll, you're enrolling in the college, you're enrolling in the college class, taking the class with other college students. Some colleges maybe offer PSEO only classes. That's a great question to ask specifically to the college that your student is interested in. In our experience, so my girls have taken online PSEO classes through Normandale Community College. So they're online and they are a mixture. It's college students that have already graduated high school and they're at the community college or they're online taking classes. And then there are some PSEO students. And so that's one way. And then Crown College, for example, they offer online PSEO that's only for PSEO students. And then they also offer some on-campus classes. They have limited number of spots available for on-campus, but then they will sometimes, if they have enough professors and enough students, they will on occasion open a class just for PSEO students. But it would depend on the college. Okay. Is that it so far, Dale?
That's it.
Okay. All right. So before I go over this slide, this is a slide that's just kind of talking about trying to help you decide, okay, is PSEO right for my student? Before I go over this, I just want you to be aware of FERPA, and I'll talk a little bit more about FERPA in another slide. But once your student matriculates in a class at a college, once they start that class, the PSEO institution legally cannot speak to you as the parent about your students' academics, like their grades, what classes they're in, how they're doing, anything really, unless the student has granted you FERPA permissions. So that's just important to know. Again, I have another slide specifically about FERPA, but I do just want to reiterate that you as the parent guiding, assisting, teaching, encouraging your student through the PSEO journey is super important, very important. However, doing everything for your student from the start of the process through is not helpful, because your student is the one taking the class and they really need to be able to do all of the things for that class. And what I mean by that is, like, from the very beginning, like filling out the application, you know, getting the emails, use their email, setting up their accounts, that kind of stuff. They're of course going to appreciate and need your guidance and your help, but just make sure that they are capable and independent to do that kind of stuff on their own. So keeping that in mind, here are just a list of some things that I think are really important to take into consideration when you're trying to decide if PSEO is right for your student. So maturity level. Is your student ready for an adult community of learners? So going back to that question about, is your student taking classes with other college students or just PSEO students? Again, you're going to have to anticipate that your student is taking classes with other adult learners. So 18 up, 19 up, or even older. Now, with that said, sometimes the PSEO students and the homeschool students are more mature than some of the freshmen that are in that class. But just keep in mind, it's an adult community of learners. Does your student take responsibility for his or her workload? And then learning style. Is your student an independent learner? I would say that's super important, especially for the online classes. Is your student a diligent student who follows through with tasks and assignments? So one of the super, super important things about these PSEO classes is turning in assignments on time. So many students who do not succeed in PSEO are the ones who actually just don't turn in their assignments. So as long as they can stay on top of their tasks and assignments and turn them in, they will most likely do just fine in their classes. How about test taking skills? So as homeschoolers, sometimes we don't always require tests. And so I think that just going over and practicing test taking skills is a good thing to do before your student starts PSEO. That is actually one of the reasons why I started with my girls in 8th and 9th grade practicing with CLEP exams, because they learned a lot of really good study skills, and then they had the experience of taking a test, an online test. And that kind of helped prepare them as well for some of their PSEO classes. Time management. Does your student know how to prioritize their schoolwork? So they're going to get into classes that are all maybe divided up differently. So one class might have it easily laid out, like, this week you're going to do these 5 assignments and turn them in. Or you might have a professor that has the class set up where it's like, this is unit 1. Unit 1 is due October 12th or whatever. And so then your student needs to be able to break that down into pieces and be able to manage their time and prioritize what work needs to be done when. And then of course, if your student is taking more than one class, especially a full load, they're really going to need to prioritize what is important to keep in mind. Like, if you have a test coming up, okay, something else needs to slide over a little bit and you need to focus on studying for that test, stuff like that. Again, assignments, can they turn in assignments on time? That's very important. Stress management. So how well does your student handle stress? So PSEO classes, again, are college classes, which means expectations can be higher than what they're used to at home. Now, with that said, in our experience, some of the classes that my girls have taken are actually easier than some of the classes we've done at home in our homeschool or at our homeschool groups. But that can happen, and that's great. And so if that happens, though, I do tell my girls, okay, yep, maybe you got an easy class, but you cannot expect that for each one. You could then all of a sudden get a class that's just really, really hard and really stressful. And so just keep that in mind too. how well your student handles that stress. And of course, you're going to be there to support your student and help them through that as well. And then communication. So having excellent written, and I put in parentheses, email and verbal communication is super important. So your PSEO student will need to feel confident to reach out directly to professors and advisors, most often through email. So just teaching them email etiquette and teaching them how to check their email and respond to email and follow through with email. I cannot even tell you how important this is and how much of an issue it is with PSEO students. It is just super important. Most communication from the PSEO institution, from the college, is going to be email, and it's going to go to your students' email. Some colleges may do you a favor and email you as the parent, but that is not going to be the norm. The student is going to have their own email, and they just need to get in the habit of checking it and following through and organizing their email. This will go a long way for them, not just in college and PSEO, but also just in the workplace down the road, because we still all use email quite a bit. So, and then they just need to feel confident to email their professors, because they're bound to have questions, and they just need to be able to email them clearly and confidently. And that's a great teaching moment for you. Even though you are not going to be the one typing the email, you can sit down with them and talk them through it, or give them an example and help them with that as well. So yeah, that's it for this slide. Are there any questions about whether or not PSEO is right for your student?
There is a question. Are PSEO classes generals or working towards a general AA or AS degree? Could a student begin earning a 2-year trade degree in PSEO as well?
Yeah, that's a great question. So generally speaking, yes, PSEO classes are general education classes. Now, the state requires that PSEO classes are designed and they are used to fulfill high school graduation requirements. Now, of course, as homeschoolers, as you all know, we do not have to follow exactly what the state of Minnesota requires schools graduation requirements. We can come up with our own requirements. Now, with that being said, I often just advise parents and students to generally follow those same graduation requirements that the state has if you have a student that's going to be college bound, because most colleges do like to see those basic requirements, right? But with that said, it also allows a lot of flexibility for us, because colleges will open, it depends on the college, but some colleges will open their whole catalog for students to take. A student may need to get approval to take a 300 or 400 level class, or they just need to meet the prereqs for that class. So typically speaking, yes, they're general education requirements. If your student does not know what he or she wants to do after high school, but they think they want to go to college, I definitely would just say, just stick to the generals. As we're planning high school, it's pretty similar. We just look at what we know for high school, and like for 11th grade, maybe you need an English. So then I would recommend maybe taking English comp through PSEO. You want a history for your high school, so you could take a history. They're all the gen ed requirements that most colleges do look for. And on their high school transcript, then also require in their degrees. Now, with that said, and I will mention this again, I often advise parents and students to have a plan. It doesn't have to be a plan set in stone, but a tentative plan, and then work backwards. So look ahead and work backwards. And what I mean by that is you can look at different colleges and different degree plans that maybe your student is somewhat interested in, and look at what those colleges, I would take maybe 3 or 4 colleges, and look at what they require for general education requirements and what they require for degree plans. And that's going to really help you plan better for PSEO. And then as far as the technical degrees, you can use PSEO at a technical college. So essentially, if you planned properly and even started in 10th grade, a student could have a technical degree finished by the time they graduate high school, just like a student could have an Associate of Arts degree finished by the time they graduate high school. But I'm not as familiar with the technical degree plans. But that is, you can do that. And I would just recommend finding a technical school and just calling and talking to an advisor and talking to, if they have a PSEO advisor there, and they will be able to walk you through that in more detail. Did I answer all the questions in that one, Dale?
We have one more.
Okay.
So the courses count as high school and college credit toward a degree, and she wanted to make sure that we don't pay for the courses, right? That's free on the state of Minnesota.
Correct. So the courses are free. Like it is free college. So as soon as you are eligible and as soon as you are accepted at a PSEO institution into their PSEO program, you then follow, and I'll go over the admission steps again, but you'll follow their admissions process and be accepted, and then you'll register for courses, and they're free. We don't pay for them. So it's pretty awesome.
Even for the private institutions as well, correct?
Yep, right. Yep. So for the private institutions, it's free as well. They're participating in the PSEO program and it is free. The one thing I would say about that is like, so Minnesota's not going to cover any Bible classes. So if you're looking at, I'm going to use Crown again as an example because I have the most experience with Crown, but if you want to do the AA program through Crown, or if your student is planning on continuing to get a 4-year degree at Crown, you cannot take the Bible classes that are required for those degrees through PSEO. They're not paid for. However, with that said, and I don't know what Bethel and Northwestern offer, but I know that Crown does offer a discounted rate for an online option. So you would pay a discounted rate to take a couple of those Bible classes that then would only be able to be applied towards a degree at Crown. So that's just an example for Crown that I know, but that you could ask an advisor at a different college for that too. But again, it would not be, the state is not going to pay for the Bible classes at private colleges.
And one more question. So they were wondering, they put the PSEO courses on the high school transcript as well as them going on the college transcript.
Yeah. Okay. So you are going to create, as a homeschooler, you are going to create your student's transcript. And there's so many options for transcripts, right? I have used the one that is available on the Credits Before College website. And I do have that link somewhere. And they will also be at MACHE convention this weekend. But I've used that transcript and it is super easy to follow. And it's really, I think you pay to download the template, or you can create your own and just make it real similar. But it's a great one to follow. So you're going to put the classes that your student is taking through PSEO on their transcript. Now, keep in mind, you don't have to put everything they've taken on your high school transcript. I would tailor it based on what college they are planning to go to and what they need to see. So if your student really has taken a lot of extra classes, I would just maybe pick out the ones that really you're requiring for graduation or that the college they're going to would like to see on their transcript. Okay. So that's the high school transcript. Now, when it comes to the college transcript, so the college that their student is taking the classes at will then have those classes on their college transcript. Now, if your student wants to transfer to a different college than where they did the PSEO classes, then they simply will be requesting the transcript from that PSEO institution where they took the PSEO classes to be sent to, and it's electronically sent to the college that they want to go to. And in one of my slides coming up, I have the transferology.com link. And that's a great website to go to help. But also some colleges will have a transfer page where you can see what classes from different colleges will fulfill what courses at that college. I didn't explain that very well, but I can show you a little bit later on. So yeah, so I think, did that answer the question?
That sounds good. Keep on going.
I'll and I'll have a little bit more time to at the end to answer more questions if I didn't clarify them. So, okay, where and how? So someone had asked how many colleges. So I have about 2/3 of Minnesota colleges offer PSEO. However, the class options will vary depending on the institution. And for more details about eligible institutions and courses, you can go to the MD web pages about PSEO. Many colleges offer in-person and online options. Some have limited spots for their on-campus classes. Just be prepared and browse through the PSEO web pages for different institutions to get a feel for what they're going to offer. So things to consider when your student is considering whether or not they should do online or on campus. So I would say for both of them are going to require technology, a good laptop. Just your student's going to need a good laptop and reliable internet. Independent learners. So in general, I would say the online classes are most suited for students who are independent learners. They're not going to have obviously like a face-to-face professor, and they have to be able to do their classes and their assignments a little bit more independently by following whatever learning management system the college uses and reading online and submitting assignments and taking whatever exams or quizzes or posting on a discussion board. So I would say for online, a little bit, the students would need to be a little bit more independent learners. On campus, they've got the professor in front of them. They talk through things, maybe get a few more reminders. It's really good to know ahead of time if your student is going to if your student really does not do well with online classes, then really look for an option that would be in person. And some students don't know until they try. So maybe trying one online class and one on campus would be a good option too, and then deciding what is best. Most colleges are still going to use the same learning management system for both, on campus and online. But of course, with the on campus, you're just going to get more one-on-one and of course, classroom time with the professor and other students and interaction. And then community. So on-campus options allow students to participate in the on-campus events and other activities. So this is a really great option for students who really desire community. However, it's important to keep in mind that college campuses are considered adult communities. So you're going to want to make sure your student is prepared for that. Obviously, like Crown College, where there's a community covenant that they sign for on campus, and you're going to be around more like-minded people, and that on campus environment is really positive. And a student like going to Crown or on campus at Northwestern, I can't speak for Northwestern as much, but I'm assuming it's the same. You can just participate in the activities that are on campus. I know at Crown the PSEO students can participate in different events. Say they have a bonfire or a Christmas party, and then some of them probably just do PSEO only events as well at their on campus. So that's another benefit of on campus versus online. But again, everybody learns differently, and some students will thrive just doing online. Some students I've come across during my advising time that some students registered for online only because they couldn't get on campus, and then they thought they wanted to be on campus. And then they realized after doing all their classes online for a semester that they really liked the flexibility of online classes and ended up staying with online versus coming on campus. So that's also just something sometimes you just don't know until you give it a try. Any questions about the where and how?
I think we're good.
Okay, so I'll go over really quickly the admissions process in general. Now, again, each PSEO institution is going to lay out very clearly on their PSEO pages what you need to do, what your student needs to do for admissions. But essentially, your student needs to apply. So there will be an online application to that PSEO institutions, to that college, and then it'll just be a really basic application to fill out. They will require, every PSEO institution is required to get the state form that is called the MDE NOSR form. It stands for Minnesota Department of Education Notice of Student Registration. That is a required form. That is essentially how the college gets paid for that class. So that's how you get it for free. So that form needs to be filled out correctly. And typically the college will provide detailed instructions on how to get that filled out. The form is available on the MDE website. You can look there for it, or the PSEO institution will have that linked as well on their application page. And then they will ask for a high school transcript. And then some colleges may require a test. I know for 10th grade, and I'll talk about this in a little bit, 10th grade PSEO, there is an extra reading test that they have to submit. But yeah, they might have a GPA requirement for the application process. But that's essentially, usually three things: the application, the MDE form, the NOSR form, and then a transcript. And then once your student is accepted, the PSEO institution will email more detailed information about, they'll say, congratulations, you're accepted. And then here's a whole bunch more information about setting up your account. So when I said it's really important for your student to check email, this is one of the reasons. You're going to get an acceptance letter with some information about setting up an account. I'm going to back up to the application part again. One important thing is to keep in mind and look at deadlines for applications. So I would say for fall semester, most institutions start accepting applications in January, but then they will cut it off maybe, well, every college is a little bit different. Like could be March, could be April, could be June, but keep an eye on those deadlines. And because once they close it and are not accepting anymore, then you can't apply until the next semester. So keep an eye on the deadlines. Another thing about the admissions process is a student can apply to and take classes at more than one PSEO institution. So I always advise students and parents to apply to, if you're unsure of where you want to take PSEO, or maybe you're unsure of the course offerings that college might offer, maybe it's not what you need, then I would say apply to more than one institution. Now, just keeping that in mind, if you do take classes at more than one PSEO institution, then you will have two different emails, two different learning management systems, and then you'll have to transfer credits from two different colleges. So there's just a little bit more, but it may be something that works for you, just to give you more class options. So again, okay, so once your student is accepted, they'll get detailed information about how to set up their account, and they'll get a college email for that college. And then typically, once their student has that email for the PSEO institution, so once they have their college email, most colleges, I would say, are going to start emailing that email, not the personal email that was used on the application. So then your student needs to remember to check their new college email. So again, really important, because then most of the information then will be going to that new college email. And then once the student's account is set up, instructions on how to register will be provided. And so again, keep an eye on important dates, like application deadlines. So any questions about the admissions process?
It doesn't look like it.
Okay. So I'm going to just talk briefly about 10th grade PSEO. So it is a newer option. I don't know exactly how many years it's been available. I want to say 5 or 6 years, but I would say most homeschool families who are familiar with PSEO are more familiar with 11th and 12th grade. So a little bit more unfamiliar with 10th grade. But it is really becoming more popular, and it's a really great option. So 10th grade PSEO can only be offered at colleges that offer technical degrees. So that's one difference. So they're only going to be offered at community colleges or technical schools, or a college like, I'm pretty certain St. Cloud State offers 10th grade PSEO because they have some technical degrees that they offer. But again, that's what the state requires. It's 10th grade PSEO can only be offered at colleges that are offered technical degrees. Now, could that change someday? Maybe it could. So then you just want to keep updated on the MD website to find out what changes they are making. So there are some slight differences in the admissions requirements and what class offerings are available. So for admissions, it's slightly different. I would just review again the admissions requirements on the PSEO institution website, but the student is required to take a specific standardized test. So if it's not, so like as a homeschooler, like we use CAT, the CAT test was not accepted. I can't remember the name off the top of my head. I think, is it the MCA test or something? It's a reading exam. It's an 8th grade reading exam. And so when my daughter, my 10th grader, applied to Normandale's online program for 10th grade PSEO, she filled out the application and then they sent her a link to take the exam, the reading proficiency exam, 8th grade exam. And then we tried to do it virtually. It did not work out very well. And so they were gracious enough to allow us to take it at another community college in person because we had technical difficulties with taking it online virtually. And she was able to take it. It took her 10 minutes to take this test. It went right to Normandale. She got her acceptance letter and she was done. So it's pretty easy. Now, the first semester of 10th grade, a student can only take a career or technical course, a CTE course. So, and those courses offerings are determined by the college. So if you apply to, let's say, Normandale or Ridgewater for 10th grade, they will maybe have different offerings for that constitute a CTE course. So they decide on that. So some examples, I mean, it could be like a keyboarding course. That would be a good one to take. My daughter took a 1-credit exercise fitness course because she was following the Minnesota transfer curriculum guide, and you need 1 exercise fitness class and it could be 1 credit. So she got that done. And then there's some colleges might actually offer personal finance because they see that as a CTE course because it is maybe part of one of their technical degrees. And so that would be awesome to take that in 10th grade. But the point is that first semester of 10th grade, student can only take a CTE course, and that will be provided to you by the college, a list of course options. Now, if your student gets a C or higher in that first semester course, he or she then will be eligible to take any of the courses from the college spring semester, which is great. So I'll use my daughter as an example. And she took her first semester of 10th grade. She took an online exercise fitness course. It was 1 credit. It was not a very rigorous course and she did well. She got an A. And so then that opened up the catalog for spring semester. And we didn't really want to overdo it, of course. So she ended up, you could take a full load spring semester of your 10th grade year if you have a student that's capable of doing that. And she very well maybe would have been capable, but I wanted to just take it little by little and see how she would do. So we chose 2 classes and she took English composition and she took personal finance. And the reason I bring up personal finance is because if you are following the Minnesota graduation requirements, you'll notice that Minnesota is now requiring that in their graduation requirements. And it is a very, very common PSEO class. So it's a great one to take during your PSEO years. And then she is just finishing. I think she has like 1 more assignment left for that personal finance, and she did great in English comp and she's done. So that's 3 courses that she has taken in her 10th grade year. She also took the World Religions DSST exam, and then she also CLEP'd the Analyzing Literature CLEP exam. So for her going into 11th grade, she's done with her language arts. Like she's CLEP'd the Analyzing Lit and she took English comp. So she's done with personal finance. And then the World Religions goes in as an elective or covers one of the goal areas for the Minnesota transfer curriculum. So she's well on her way to just saving a ton of time and money because then she'll do 11th and 12th grade PSEO. Okay, goals. So looking ahead and working backwards. So I reiterate that quite a lot. It does make a difference. So if you have any idea, if your student has any idea where he or she would like to go, or like I said, just want to look at different colleges, look at degree plans, it does make it easier to plan your PSEO if you look ahead and work backwards. So any questions with 10th grade PSEO?
Yes, one question. They want to know, what is CLEP?
Oh, good question. Okay, so CLEP and DSST are ways to earn college credit by exam. If you have if you've downloaded the handout, I have a whole page on CLEP, and I have a whole bunch of links that will help you understand CLEP. There will also be Credits Before College will be at MACHE convention this weekend. So if you happen to be going there, it's not too late to register. Credits Before College will be there, and she will have a lot of great information about CLEP as well. So that is just another way to earn college credit. Essentially, you study, and there's a bunch of resources you can use to study, or you just take, like in our homeschool, you do let's say a US history course, and so you're using your curriculum. I use Knotgrass as our spine, and we're doing US history, and then towards the end of the semester or the end of the year, we start honing in on studying for the CLEP exam. We use a ton of resources. I'm partial to Peterson's practice exams, and you just practice those exams. Then you have to set up an appointment with a testing center, and your student goes and takes the CLEP exam. It's a pass fail. If you get a 50, then you've passed, and your student has earned 3 college credits. Now, when you would need to go on a college's website to see what their CLEP policy is. So every college will say whether or not they accept CLEP and what that CLEP exam would fulfill, what course that CLEP exam would fulfill. So again, looking ahead at the college, seeing what they will accept, and then working backwards. So and then DSST is just a different type of exam that is similar to CLEP. And my daughters did the world religion DSST, and they both passed. Now, we did run into the issue where UW River Falls does not accept DSST, but they accept CLEP. However, because Elena got her AA degree through Normandale, that CLEP exam was applied toward her AA degree. And then now she's transferring that whole AA degree to fulfill her gen eds at UW River Falls. So there's just little things like that that if you kind of look ahead and work backwards, you might be able to figure out. So
they want to know, is it just Minnesota colleges that CLEP works for, or is it any college?
Nope, any college. So again, you would just want to go on the college's website and see what they have for a CLEP policy. Yep, any college. That's not just specific to Minnesota. And actually, to be honest, the way I learned about CLEP, my husband got his bachelor's degree as an adult. So he was a working adult working towards his bachelor's degree, and he found out about CLEP through a community college. And this was years ago. This was before we had kids, before I knew I was going to homeschool. And so it was really interesting because he actually CLEP'd out of 6 classes. He took 6 CLEP exams. So there you go. He studied, took the exam, passed it, transferred it to his school. It fulfilled the class so he didn't have to take the class. And so then fast forward when we started homeschooling, and I went to a Credits Before College seminar, and she was mentioning CLEP. I'm like, oh my goodness, I didn't even think that we could be using this in our homeschool. So it is a good option. And like I said, you can use both CLEP and PSEO. And again, it's not neither one, like they're not for everybody. CLEP can be kind of stressful too. And I think it's a great experience because it teaches the student like great study skills, and then test taking. But it can be kind of nerve-wracking when they're taking that exam. But I will tell you, if they pass that first, I told my girls, yeah, I want you to try one. If you do not pass it, then we just move on. If you pass it and you're interested in trying another one, then you can. And so they both passed the first one they took, and I think it was a confidence booster. One thing I will say though about CLEP, so that's different from PSEO. So PSEO, obviously you're taking the college class and it is on your college record. So it's on a transcript, it's on your college record. CLEP is not on anybody's record. So it's kind of like you can go take the test. If you do not pass the test, nobody has to know. Like nobody knows, no other college. You don't have to transfer that to a college. They just don't know. So that's kind of nice. That's a nice thing about CLEP. So, and again, the handout that I've provided has a little bit more information about CLEP and some links to learn a little bit more.
One more thing. Do students typically CLEP out of courses that they have been successful in, or can they study enough to pass even without lots of experience in that subject?
Great question. And it actually depends. I would say it depends on the student. It depends on the exam. I will give you an example. So there is a site called freeclepprep.com, and he lists out the CLEP exams by difficulty. And so that was helpful for us. And then also just kind of like your bent of your student. So my oldest daughter, because science is kind of her thing. She actually she passed the biology CLEP, and she got a pretty good score. And so science kind of her thing. Now, literature is not her thing. She does not like to read. She would read nonfiction, but not read a whole story. She did not like any of her language arts classes. And so I did not have her do the analyzing lit. Now my middle daughter is an avid reader. She loves to read, and I just kind of felt like the literature one would be a pretty easy one. So for her, I use the IEW curriculum teaching the classics, and that's only a 6-week course. I used that with her, and then she used Peterson practice exams for 1 month and studied did those exams over and over again, and passed the CLEP. Now others need to really take the whole year to do it. And then of course in high school, if you're doing like my older daughter did biology, well, she took, because I wanted a whole biology course on her transcript for high school, she took a whole biology course at the homeschool group that we have and that we're a part of. And then she, towards the end of that class, the tutor did help prep for the CLEP exam. And then all of the students in that class actually ended up taking the CLEP exam and passed. So that was a full course. So it kind of depends. When my husband did it, he just took 6 weeks, studied for an exam, took the exam, took another 6 weeks, studied for the exam, passed. So it kind of depends. Now, I would say most high school students need a little bit more time. So I would maybe do it a little bit longer and use it as an actual course for your high school. But you can do CLEP. Students can do CLEP even while they're in college. If their college accepts CLEP exams, then they can, say, well, over Christmas break, I just want to study for a CLEP exam and try it and see if I pass. And then if their college accepts it, then they've fulfilled that requirement. So it's pretty flexible. Okay. So this next slide, I just have some common questions that I've gotten. So the first one, how many classes should I take? That's a pretty common question. So in general, a full load of PSEO classes is typically 4 to 5 classes per semester. And that's a pretty hefty load. I would say you've got to have a student that's really diligent and ready for a lot of schoolwork to do that. And they'll have to manage their time pretty well. If you have a student that's really active in a lot of other things, a lot of sports, or has a job that it's really important to them, that might be too much. Could be maybe good for one semester, but then the next semester you need to cut back. But that's typically a full load. But there's no right way to do PSEO. A student can take one class or up to the limit, which I think is usually 18 credits per semester. But even just taking one class a semester does really help save some time and money. So, again, there's no right way to do PSEO, and it's not necessarily right for every student either. But it is really a great opportunity. And if your student is working towards an AA degree, which I'll talk about in a little bit, they would need to be taking that full load. So you'd have to be prepared for that. So number 2, will my credits transfer? I have gotten this question. This is like one of the most popular questions that I get. So you'll find that college credits transfer more or less easily to a college. The question that you should be asking is, will these credits fulfill degree requirements? Again, looking ahead and working backwards. Like if you look at a degree plan and you work backwards, you'll be able to see whether or not those classes that you've taken are actually going to be applied and fulfill that degree requirement. And I put here, this is a website that is really helpful called transferology.com. you create an account, or your student can create an account, and then you are able to enter in all of the courses that your student has taken, whether it's all of the college credits, so PSEO courses, any course from a college, or CLEF, that's also an option on there. And then you enter those in, and then you say search for colleges, and it'll bring up a list of colleges. You select a college, and it will tell you what classes, those credits that you already have, what they will fulfill at that particular college, what courses that they will fulfill. Now, it is not perfect. You'll get a yes, no, or a maybe. Yes, it will fulfill, and then it usually gives you some extra notes, like it'll fulfill this course and it'll fulfill a goal area here. If it says maybe, it just means that that course has not been transferred to that college from that other college. So in our experience, some of the Crown classes don't always show up correctly, and it'll just be a maybe. Well, what I advise most PSEO students is to make sure you save your syllabus. If you save all your syllabus for your classes, all your syllabi, then you will have those to be able to present to a college if you have to actually petition to transfer a course to fulfill a certain degree, a class. So if they look at that and they're like, well, if they're using transferology and they say, well, it says a maybe, we don't know, then they would have to you'd have to request that be transferred. And then having the syllabus is helpful, because then they can look at the syllabus and say, okay, this class would be sufficient to fulfill this particular course here. So that's a good reason to keep your syllabus for your courses. And then what about earning an AA degree? So I get this question quite a lot as well. So this can be a really, really great option for many students. And it's a great option for students who are really diligent and hardworking and want to take full load of classes each semester that maybe only want a 2-year degree. Then that's awesome. You can get that 2-year degree while you're still in high school, and it's free. So that's amazing. So it can be super appealing. I've found that a lot of parents look at that. They're like, hey, how can my kid get an AA degree in high school? Well, because it sounds really cool. But sometimes it's not the best option for your student. And again, I'm going to say it depends on what they're going to do after high school. So typically an AA degree is 60 credits. And most of the time, at least in our experience from what I've seen, the AA degree has about 40 credits of general education requirements. So your basics, your language arts, your English composition, literature, history, a science with a lab, maybe psychology, sociology, all those generals, right? So 40 credits of those, and you just kind of knock them out. Then your AA degree is going to require you to have 20 credits of electives. Well, if your student just takes whatever classes, maybe that can be good, because maybe they're just trying to search and figure out what they're interested in. So it gives them an opportunity to explore different areas of interest and learn different things. But when you go to transfer that AA, or when you go to complete a 4-year degree and you want to transfer all those courses, maybe all of those gen ed courses will fulfill requirements at the 4-year college that you're transferring to. However, those 20 electives that your student took, they may not actually fulfill degree requirements at that college. They may transfer in as electives, but keep in mind, not all degrees require a lot of electives. So that's why, again, I'm going to say, look at degree plans to see what they require. And I'll use my daughters as an example. So the degrees that are pretty specific in what they require are like maybe an engineering degree for sure. Nursing, teacher ed is really specific. There could be some other ones, dairy science, which is what my daughter is going for. So dairy science, for example, she only needs, in her full 120 credit degree, she only needs to have 3 general elective courses. So if she had taken 20 credits of electives at Normandale and just kind of chose whatever she wanted. She took a criminal justice class because she thought that would be interesting. Well, that's going to cover one of her electives, 3 credits. Well, if she had taken more of just random classes, she probably would have had a lot of classes that actually did not apply towards her degree. They would transfer, the college would accept them, they would come in as general electives, but if she only needed 3 general electives. So we were pretty specific when planning hers. We wanted to really meet and fulfill the degree requirements for a dairy science degree. And of course, hers was a little bit easier for me because she knew what she wanted to do. So it was, I could pull that degree up and we could look at what options she needed or could take from through PSEO and be able to do that more easily. And I used Transferology and I used some other tools as well. And I talked to an advisor. I called and emailed the admissions advisor is who I ended up talking to. Now that she has been accepted, she has an actual advisor that will be helping her register for her courses there. But anyway, my point is, for an AA degree, it's an awesome opportunity, but it's not necessarily the right thing for everybody. And I just realized I have another slide specifically about that, so I'll go to that one. Here are a few things to keep in mind, things to consider. So your student would need to have the capacity to take 12 to 18 credits each semester. It could be less, like if they're coming in with 10th grade PSEO or Klepper and DSST credits, could be less. And those are super helpful to come in with some CLEP. If your student plans to pursue a 4-year degree after high school, consider where and what degree so that you can plan accordingly. Do you need the AA degree, or is it better just to transfer the credits individually to more accurately fulfill the degree requirements? So that's something to consider. Again, some 4-year degrees have very specific degree plans and requirements. Some do not allow for a lot of electives. Just keep those things in mind. And again, at these colleges, you'll have advisors to help you as well as you're looking into what courses to take and what degrees to pursue. So I'll use my sophomore, my 10th grader as an example. Emma is looking at pursuing an AA in communications and with maybe a marketing emphasis. So we are using that as our guide then to fill in what she needs. There is also an option. So an AA degree, when it transfers to a school, a state school here in Minnesota, and then I know for Wisconsin, for some schools in Wisconsin, it will fulfill all the general education requirements. So my daughter will be transferring her AA degree to River Falls, and she's done with all gen eds. That just takes care of all the gen ed requirements. Now, there is also another option, the MNTC. I'm not sure if I have a slide for the MNTC. I think it's on the handout. I do have some links for the MNTC. The Minnesota Transfer Curriculum is another option. And that's what you kind of have to weigh out what's better, either to work towards your 60 credits of AA degree or just work towards fulfilling the MNTC, which is kind of what we're looking at with my middle daughter. She wants to try to just knock out that first. And the MNTC is a set of courses that are broken down into goal areas that it's for the state colleges, for Minnesota state colleges. There's 10 goal areas. And then there are a certain number of classes or certain classes that the student can take to fulfill each goal area. And so if you're following the MNTC, it would make a whole lot more sense when you pull it up and look at the charts that the colleges provide for the MNTC. You'll see that if they just have to fulfill these goal areas. And then once that is fulfilled, then the gen eds are done. And then you would start working towards like actual degree classes. So any questions about an AA degree through PSEO?
I don't think so. I think we're good.
That was a lot. Like, I feel like that was a little much. So that's something that if you have specific questions about the MNTC or AA degrees, feel free to email me. My contact information will be at the end. It's also on the handout. So that was a hard one to kind of keep concise. So there's just a lot of information. So I'm going to touch on FERPA. So I'm not going to read through all of that, but this is just something you really should know about, especially as a homeschool mom. When I first learned about it, I was like, wait, what? The college can't talk to me about my student because I'm their advisor, I'm their guidance counselor. But at the time, my oldest daughter was not actually taking classes yet. She was still in the admissions process. And so the school was actually wrong in that, and they were able to talk to me. Now, however, once your student like actually starts a course at a college, that's when this goes into effect. And the college cannot legally speak to you about your student's academics if unless your student has given you FERPA permissions. So for your student to give you FERPA permissions, it's pretty simple. The college is just going to have a form that they need to fill out. So typically it will be within their account and they just have to go find it. They have to put your name down and submit it. And then the college will know if you call with a question or if you email with a question, they will look up your student. They'll say, okay, this parent has FERPA permissions from the student. I can therefore speak to them about the student's academics. So it would be something that I would really encourage, like if your student starts PSEO, definitely encourage them or sit down next to them and, help them find that FERPA form and grant you permissions so that you can have that option to speak to the college. Okay. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about how to prepare your student. So of course, as homeschool parents, we are always preparing our students every year, and it changes a little bit every year what you're working on. But I would say study skills are top, and I would say probably 8th grade is a good year to start really honing in on study skills and getting them ready for high school. But excellent study skills, note taking, reading, active listening, test taking, just working on those really good study skills so that they're prepared for high school and PSEO. Time management, I've already mentioned that a couple of times. So definitely being able to manage their time and getting assignments turned in okay. And with that, of course, is being able to check their email, respond to email properly, and follow along with deadlines. Communication, again, from the very start of the PSEO process, your student needs to be confident, independent enough to clearly communicate, reach out to PSEO advisors and professors. I would say mostly it is done by email, but that is just really important. And then ownership. This one too, I touch on a lot because I feel like there's a lot of parents that want their kids to do PSEO because it is such a great opportunity. But your student really needs to be invested, and they need to know the benefits of PSEO, and they really need to kind of take that ownership of it. They need to know like how much time and money they're saving, and they need to be motivated to do these classes since they are the ones who are actually doing these classes, taking the classes, and then it will be on their transcript and their record. So it's an incredible gift from the state of Minnesota, and I would just encourage you to encourage them to be grateful for it and not take it for granted. So if they're enrolled in PSEO, to really take it seriously, they'll be successful. There are ways, like another thing to keep an eye on for the PSEO institution. Like if your student starts a class and they just feel super, super overwhelmed, they're like, okay, I don't want to do this anymore. This is too much. There is a time frame of where you can add or drop a course. So that is what you would want to look at for your school to see those dates, those specific dates. So usually the add drop date is like within maybe a week or two, possibly 3. I think it's usually a couple weeks from the start of the course. And so add drop, they can drop a course if they look at the syllabus and they're like, oh no, this looks way too much. And that has happened with my girls. Ironically, my oldest daughter signed up she had to take one health course to complete her AA degree. And she signed up to take stress management. And she started the course, first day of the course, she looked at the syllabus and she was completely stressed out from this syllabus. And so she was like, no way I'm taking this. This looks like way too stressful for me. I'm going to find a different health course. So she was able to drop that course with no penalty within that time frame. There's another option where you can, after the add drop date, you can still withdraw from a course, and that date is usually pushed out pretty far. So your student can withdraw. Now, a withdrawal is different than a drop. If your student withdraws from a course, they actually get a W on their transcript. And so that really only has significance if your student has a lot of W's. So if they want to go to college after high school and the college asks for their transcripts and they pull them up and they see that they've got several W's, then that might be an issue. But for the most part, 1 or 2 W's on a transcript for a college is not going to be a huge deal. The only other people that would affect would be public school students. So if you have a student that's in a public school and they're doing PSEO and they get a W, they withdraw, then the school can see that can actually record that on their high school transcript as an F. But for homeschoolers, we can not necessarily put that on we wouldn't put that on the high school transcript. It would still be on the college transcript, but again, 1 or 2 or even maybe 3 is not going to be a huge deal down the road when they are ready to get into a college. But those are a couple options. Again, really important to keep an eye on those dates though. And that information is going to be emailed to your student. So again, another reason to make sure your student knows how to check their email appropriately and respond, and just pay attention to all those details. Okay, so any questions on how to prepare your student?
Looks good. Keep going.
Okay. Almost done. What time is it? 8 o'clock, 8:12. Okay, so this is just my final slide, and then I will take more questions if there are more questions. But this is to learn more. So there's an opportunity this weekend to go to the MACHE convention up in Duluth, and I put the QR code there. It's not too late to register, and there will be opportunities at MACHE to learn more about PSEO. So again, I had mentioned credits before college will be there, and I think Kristen's doing a lot of seminars and workshops, right, Dale? I think she's got quite a few. So that's going to be a great one.
Kristen Lackey from Credits Before College will be there. But also, if you're interested, our podcast, Homeschool Minnesota, that you can find on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Audible, YouTube. Well, this wouldn't be on YouTube. You can find Credits Before College podcast with Kristen Lackey as well.
Yep. And that website is great. Tons of information. That's actually where I first learned about PSEO. I went years ago when it was before Kristen, when it was started and owned by Sherry Frame. And so I went years before, and I used curriculum from Credits Before College for the CLEP exams. So that's another great place to get the CLEP exam resources and more information. And then there will be a seminar done by University of Northwestern St. Paul that's called PSEO on Purpose, which will be great. There will be other college exhibitors there who will be able to give you more information. So I know Crown will be there. I believe Bethel is going to be there. And so you can ask them more about their PSEO programs. I've provided the Navigating PSEO document. And then also, if you have a group or a big homeschool community of parents that are just really interested in learning more about PSEO as volunteers with MACHE, and this is actually what Dale does. She does an incredible job of doing outreach, and she goes around the state to different groups and homeschool communities, and talks to you about homeschooling. And I would be happy to come to your community or your group as long as it works out with my schedule and I can make it work logistically. I would love to be able to come and just share more information, and it could be more of like a workshop where we can go into a lot more details and I could answer a lot more questions more specific to maybe certain degrees or help with degree planning, because that is another thing that I really like to do, is just help people with their degree planning. And just simplifying PSEO. I would be happy to do that in person with your group, with your homeschool group or your homeschool community. And then my email is there, amanda.fisher@mache.org. Feel free to email me if you have any questions. I have sent out I have kind of a template email that I use that I can send out pretty easily that has links for really helpful resources. Again, if you pull up, I'm going to go find this handout that I keep talking about, and I'm going to share it over here.
I already shared it.
Okay.
Yep, they have it. We do have one question.
Yeah.
Do you do virtual meetings for career planning or college planning?
Oh, that's a good question. I certainly could do that. Again, it will just be based on my schedule and, what I can. Yeah, I would be happy to do that. I'd be happy to do a Zoom call and go over some of that. But that would be a great option too. Any other questions? Let me see if I can see the chat.
I think that's all the questions. Just so you all know, this was a lot of information. Thank you so much, Amanda, for all of that. I mean, that's a lot. We will be, because we recorded this, we will be posting this online. Because there was a mix up with the link, we will try to get it up by tomorrow. So you can always go to our YouTube channel and you can go ahead and just revisit it and get, scroll through and get to the marker, the point where you guys know that you wanted that question answered or whatever. Um, for sure. And if you have any questions about PSEO, please contact Michelle. If Amanda can't answer your question, which I can't imagine she wouldn't, but if for some reason she's gone and not able to, there are other people on our staff who would be able to help you out or get you to somebody who can answer your question. That's what we're here to do. We're here to support you all as you homeschool your kids. Yeah. So, um, one last thing. Anybody else have any more questions?
Yeah, I will agree with you. It's a lot of information, and I feel like you might leave this webinar feeling like you need some time to process it, and then you'll think of more questions. So definitely, like what Dale said, email me or info@mache.org, and we'd be happy to help you out. But yes, every time I talk to people at PSEO, I just feel like, wow, this was a lot, and I still feel like I forgot some things, or maybe just wasn't super clear about some things. So definitely don't hesitate to reach out and I can help you out a little bit more. Like Dale said, somebody from Mache, if you email the info@mache.org, somebody will reach out to you with more information.
Yeah. Glad to help. Thank you so much, Amanda. This has been very, very informational and very helpful. And we appreciate your time. So,
Yeah.
yeah, for everybody else, if you have any other questions, you can go ahead and just, I will probably, why don't I do this? Why don't I unmute you all? So if you are able to, if you would like to, you can ask a question. Otherwise, um, yeah, that's the end.
Thanks, Dale.
All
I'll
right.
stay
Thank you
on
so
a bit
much.
longer if anybody has any more questions.